Hello. I'm Judy Speidel, and this is going to be about my last 30 years spent beading. I started in the early 90s. Before that, I did all kinds of handwork. Primarily at that point, I was doing needlepoint and counted cross stitch. But I met a teacher who taught beading, and she insisted I needed to learn it. And I said, no, I'm a needle worker. And she got me to come to her class because it was free in Pomona at the senior center. And to make a long story very short, I'm now a beader. I am no longer a needle pointer, and I haven't, or cross stitcher, and I really haven't done that. Probably the last time I did it was 1995. I have beaded quite a bit since then, made a lot of things. I think most people think of stringing, which this is stringing done between stitches. I did the little stitch pieces in the middle, and then I strung them together. And that's a pretty easy thing. You really don't need a pattern to do it. You just go for it. Most of the, on these parts, the part that goes around your neck is strung. But in between, these are called pouches. And that one was a class I took called shading. You look at the back, you can really see the shading. So I learned a little bit about shading in that path. And the stitch is called peyote stitch. And then, of course, the fringe is strung. This one is also peyote stitch. It's a sparrowhawk, which I decided to do since my maiden name was Sparrow, not thinking of the fact that sparrowhawks eat sparrows, but there it is. And I did make a lot of pouches, and a lot of people asked me what I kept in them, and I told them my $1,000 bill. They said, what are you going to spend it on? I said, more beads. This pouch I made, actually a lot of the beading groups that I belong to and the needlework groups required you to wear a handmade name tag. So I got the pattern, but then I changed the back of it so it became my name tag. And I wrote out my signature and copied it in, so it's my own handwriting and the date when I did it. This pouch is done with bugle beads with the alternating rows have the smaller beads in them. And if you turn it around, it's more elegant. So I can wear it with a dressy dress, which I haven't had much occasion to need it for lately. And this is the last necklace. This one is my own design. I bought the purple flower down at the bottom from a glass maker, and then I just designed around it. Some of the little beads in the neck part are also from that same glass blower. So the stitch in between is pretty much just strung. Now let's go to some bracelets. This also is a peyote. This is a peyote stitch one. It's two drop peyote. It's called. Peyote is a drop stitch, so it's kind of like doing it like a brick, except you work it across. If you work it sideways, it's a brick stitch. But it's easier for me to do the peyote stitch. And it works up pretty fast when you're doing it two beads at a time. the back of this bracelet. The back of this bracelet is also just a peyote stitch that I wove. And then on top of it, I laid one row, on every row, I laid one layer of loose beads. So I saw something like that when I was in New Mexico, and I kind of copied the idea. Beading has taken me many places. I took a cruise from California down to Mexico one time with a teacher teaching a class during the week cruise. John and I flew to Scotland one time, and I took a beading class, and it was very interesting. We were in somebody's home, and there were like 8 or 9 students and 2 teachers and the woman who owned the house. And the classes were called, they're still put on. She hires different people to do them. And they're done throughout the world, really. They're called bead. I can't think right now of the name, I'll think of it. While I was taking a class, some of the others were taking class, John would walk into town and meet everybody at the pubs. So he was not bored with my being in Scotland. And part of the time we did tour Scotland. It was a very good cruise, trip, not a cruise. The first trips I made with beading was there were classes being taught once a year. They'd have classes and all sorts of people selling things, kind of like a fair. And they would have it in a different city. And the first time I went, John and I flew to Texas because there were 2 different groups doing it. And one week one group was doing it in Austin, and the next week another one was doing it in Dallas. So in between we traveled around Texas. So beading's taken me a lot of places. Let's go to the bracelets, other bracelets I've made. This is the first bracelets I ever made. When I first took a class, I would go to a bead store and I would buy 1 bead at a time. I was looking for things in the color to put on top. It didn't take too long before I never bought 1 bead at a time. I didn't even buy 100 at a time. But I still love that bead, that bracelet, and I still wear it. This bracelet, let me see, I think it's, again, it's done kind of like this one is, in that I made the base and then I laid things on top of it. Okay, I'm going to finish up with these last bracelets right here. I made these kinds because they have to be made to fit, because they go right over your arm. And to get the size right, I was up visiting my son in Washington State, and he saw me trying to get the size right, and he went out to his garage and got a piece of piping, and that exactly fits is the size of my hand and arm to get it over. So they will fit. Well, they will fit right over it. I guess it's time has moved on. Oh well, it did. These are the small ones. I made them one at a time. They could be worn separately or together. And I do those, I've done those in a lot of color combinations because they're fun and fast. And the last bracelet, for you who would like to try making a bracelet, but you don't think you can do it, that's done on elastic. And I just bought those little ginger man buttons and the little beads in between at Michael's. And I bought the elastic, and you would buy it in the beading section, and just strung them on there and tied a knot in it and cut off the ends. And there it is. Now, Shall we go to the Christmas ornaments?
Yes. Which one do you want to start with?
Pick up one.
How about the nativity?
Yeah. This is one of my favorite ornaments. I have a tree, a little metal tree, and this is what I now decorate them with. If you turn it around, you'll see it has the whole nativity. It has Mary and Joseph and the baby. It has the 3 wise men. It has an angel. And I think it has a shepherds also. So,
Yeah, right.
and that's essentially done like many of the bracelets, and then you just bead the top. And the thing is called a ball gown because it fits over a ball. And if I break the ball, it's easy just to put it over another ball. I don't have to worry about breaking the ornament.
Ooh. Oh, the hook fell off. Want to do the cardinals and other birdies?
Yeah, you can take another one of those little hooks. There's plenty of them. And this design was done by the same person that did the nativity, but they're little banners, and they're cardinals mostly, I think. But I think there's just two different colors on it. And then the little things hanging down are just strung beads. So I made each banner separately, and then I beaded the top and put it over there after I'd made everything else.
So I do this beauty.
Now, this one I don't have to worry about breaking it because it's plastic. And I bought the plastic bead, it's square, the form, at Michael's. And because it's plastic, I don't have to worry about it. But because it's square, I didn't have a design. So I made up my own design for this, which is always fun to do. But they're not near as elaborate as some of the patterns I've bought.
I'm going to go to one of my favorites.
Oh, right.
Mr. Woodland Fantasy over here.
And this one, as you can see, has beautiful leaves hanging from it. I just liked that pattern so much when I saw it. I had to buy a kit because I didn't know where even to get all the things that are in it. But I really love it. And it's just really draped. It's not an elaborate design, but somebody had to figure it out.
All right, let's see what we got. Oh, yeah, we got Santa.
And you recognize this design, Santa and all 8 of the reindeer, and the night sky, houses down below. This also was designed by the person that did the nativity. And she does beautiful designs. And it makes up pretty quickly. Well, after you get the panels made.
We can just have this one more. Oh, yeah. There we go.
This is the final ornament that we're going to show you. And again, this was a kit also because I had to be able to get the horses. And so it's a merry-go-round. And I think the top looks like the top of a lot of merry-go-rounds. So.
All right. Oh, yeah.
And the last thing I want to show you is this tassel. I've never really known what to do with it after I beaded it. It was a class I took over in San Bernardino, but and I don't remember the teacher's name. It's too bad. And it's getting a little worn because I've had it for a long time. But I finally figured out a way to hang it up on my wall. So, where it shows off. And it was fun to do. And that's it. Oh, it's my workbench.
Well, let's show that.
Now, this is my workbench, and you probably wonder what I use. This is what I use. This is the beading thread I use, which is actually fishing line. I use beading needles, which are quite small. I use children's Fisker scissors to cut the fish line because everything else dulls the scissors. I have a thread zapper to burn the thread when it's close. And those are really the main tools you need, although it does help to have a good light with a magnifying glass. And sometimes magnifying glasses. And pliers. But that pretty much takes care of it. And needles, of course. But it's beading needles, not regular needles, because you want something very fine.